Good morning, everybody. You are welcome to Minet Wellness Webinar. As usual, every month, we give you a webinar to talk about very topical issues pertaining to your wellness as a person, as a corporate organization leader, as a woman, as a man, as a child. You are welcome once again. With me in the studio is a very outstanding woman who is going to speak to you about menopause. But before we get there, I would like to just remind you that Minet is a 3 times award-winning initiator of employee wellness programs, which is responsible for psychosocial support in corporate spaces to support you with counseling services, with preventive health education, with all programs that will enable your staff members have a good value system and ground themselves in terms of their well-being to be able to be productive, to contribute meaningfully to society as well as your organization. I would like to ask you that you invite everybody within your influence to come and join the call. It's a free webinar to all people, to the public, talking about very topical issues that do affect your wellness as an individual. My name is Helen Mbabazi, the Wellness Coordinator with Minet, and I'm here to moderate this discussion this morning. As we go into the discussion, it's going to be a presentation very powerful that you need to know about. But first of all, why are we talking about menopause? It's a subject that many people hear about and literally look the other side. It's not spoken about. To some people, it's a shameful thing to talk about, but it's literally affecting people in the workspace. And without a voice to enable them understand and be aware of what it means and how they can take control of that. I'll give you a little background in terms of statistics. According to Society of Human Resource Management, 2020, that is by Forbes magazine report, a number of menopausal and postmenopausal women is expected to reach 1.2 billion. And there are 47 women entering into menopause each year, okay? A little bit about background is that these are women who are in leadership, leading as many people as possible, but literally mentally affected by the symptoms of menopause, physically, emotionally, and mentally. Now you can see how this trickles down to affect the workforce of today and tomorrow, and affecting the legacy that could probably live within the corporate organization. But also understand how menopause affects her. The challenging psychological symptoms of menopause can affect women at work, literally. However, talking about it is the other challenge that we want to open up today. Many people don't want to talk about menopause because it actually reveals that probably you're getting to the age, you're older as a woman, and as you know, women don't talk about age. So that's a challenge with it. Critical attention should be drawn to the fact that menopause is affecting women in leadership roles, affecting their energy, affecting their moods, affecting their day-to-day progression in as far as they are concerned. Literally, women in this age or in this cycle kind of write themselves off and sort of stop leading or stop creating, stop being innovative, and stop growing in as far as we are concerned. But this is the age where you have a lot of wisdom that the world needs to receive. While menopause moods are known to affect marriage relationships as well, they have a far-reaching potential to affect organizational teams and hence affect their performance, okay? While society slowly changes to begin to understand this, it is very necessary for the woman and the man on the call here today to understand the stages of life and to also know that it's a very normal consequence of life. But when you take control of it, you can have far-reaching benefits for your organization and as an individual. I would like also to say that each woman uniquely experiences menopause. You'd want to hear the speaker today try and get you a revelation into how this is going to affect you as a person, how unique it can be to different people, and how you can actually treat it. It's personalized, they are personalized needs. Now, consulting healthcare professionals is very critical at this point. And with us in the studio is a very, very, very professional person who has not only gone through the experience, but has gone ahead to study and attain an expertise, a level of expertise, which I'm going to explain shortly. Now, help is here this morning as I talk about menopause. Menopause effects can be managed, can be treated, and can enable you to age gracefully and happily as a vibrant woman without stopping the course of your life just because menopause paused in as a cycle. Now, Minet is also here to support beyond this talk this morning. We have this support in form of consulting, in form of talks in your workspace with a very expert that you're looking at this morning. And just before we go, I would like her to introduce herself by name.
Thank you so much, Helen, for that introduction. And just a special thank you to Minet for taking a step, for taking this very necessary and urgent turn to speaking about menopause, which is a very critical topic in a lot of workspaces. My full names are Angela Chego. I'm a certified functional hormonal specialist with the International Association of Functional Hormonal Health. I take a lot of pride in understanding women's health, understanding hormones, and just trying to create awareness in general about what's going on at a physiological level, how it affects our energy, our moods, our productivity, and just life in general. So for the next couple of minutes, I will be going over a presentation that tackles what Helen has loosely or just stepped on. We're going to get into the details of the effects, we're going to get into the details of the causes, the life cycles in women's lives, and just seeing how it affects everyone in general. So yeah, I'm very excited to be here today.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. That's Angela for you. She's an expert and a practitioner in hormonal health and holistic well-being. So she's here to speak to us, but just before we begin, Angela is going to make a 30 minutes presentation to you. We would like you to listen attentively and carefully. But most importantly, write down your question. Any questions that comes to your mind, throw it into our chat box. I'll pick it up at the end of the presentation or along the presentation, and she will be able to address it. So invite a friend, invite a colleague to tune in. It's time to learn, it's time to manage, it's time to overcome the odds of menopause affecting very important women in their cycle. Thank you. Welcome, Angela, to this presentation.
Thank you very much. Right, so some of the questions we're going to be addressing today are: what is menopause? What about perimenopause? How do I function with recurring unmanageable symptoms? And who is affected and when, right? So to sort of tackle this, we have an agenda up. We're going to look at hormones 101, understanding what exactly goes on when we speak about hormones. We're going to look at the cycle of the reproductive life of a woman as well. Then we're going to discuss how to hack it. We're going to look at ways of staying in touch, and finally we'll get into questions. Right, so just off the bat, let's meet our hormones. Hormones are chemical messengers that facilitate communication in the body. Hormones have a lot of bad rapport and negative energy around them, because most times people engage in conversations about hormones, it's usually when they're imbalanced, right? Hormones are your best friends. They're here to support you. They're facilitating a lot of bodily processes going on, all right? Now, another thing to note is that hormones make up a very sophisticated system called the endocrine system. If you look at your screen, there's a representation of what the endocrine system might look like. We have the brain involved. We have the brain sending out messages at every moment in the day to get processes going on. But today we're focusing on the gonads, and more specifically the ovaries. So let's get into the ovaries and the primary sex hormones that are involved in the transition in your endocrine systems, right? So the first hormone that I'd like to speak about is estrogen. I like to think of estrogen as this very powerful, this very driven, this fearless queen, right? She comes into your system to strictly proliferate the thickness of your uterine walls. What does that mean? That's essentially estrogen coming into your system to build your uterine walls, and she rules what we call the follicular phase. When estrogen comes into your system, there's a gradual rise from the bottom to the top all the way through your ovulatory phase, okay? Then we have progesterone. Progesterone happens to be the more laid back, the more cool-headed, the more guided queen who takes her time, all right? The main reason progesterone is in your system is to maintain the thickness of your uterine walls. Progesterone facilitates pregnancy, and it's the most predominant hormone that's available in your system through your pregnancies. So it's very important to dial into progesterone health if you're a woman looking to enhance your fertility or just be pregnant, basically. And third, but not least, we have testosterone. Testosterone is a very masculine force. It's a very driven, high energy, assertive sort of hormone that comes to play during our ovulatory phase. Testosterone is present in women's system at least 3 to 4 days a month, which is very, very different from men who have testosterone peaking every single day of the year at 9 a.m. So that's one of the key differences between male and the female reproductive system. We have testosterone in men coming in every day, and we have testosterone coming in women only at least 3 days max a month. And that really changes the conversation when it comes to workplace presence, productivity, and also just energy in general. All right? Next, if we had to sort of graph that, this is ideally what it would look like. We can see that cycle day 1 is essentially where your menstrual cycle starts. That's your menstrual phase. Then as estrogen comes into play, you can see estrogen levels rising there. You have your follicular phase. Then right after your follicular phase, when we see estrogen peaking and testosterone coming to play along, that is your ovulatory phase. Right after these 3 phases, we have a very exciting phase called the luteal phase, which happens to be the longest phase in the cycle as well. And the luteal phase is where we can see progesterone taking over. So when progesterone takes over, there's a phase where all these hormones just go down, and we have our cycle starting again in your menstrual phase. And beyond reproduction, I want to highlight these key importances of these hormones, because we're going to understand why when we get to our perimenopause and menopausal years, we struggle with different symptoms, okay? So estrogen is important for maintaining heart health, it's important for supporting bone health, it's important for cholesterol production, it's important for having your skin age gracefully, it supports healthy weight balance as well as improved glucose metabolism, okay? When we talk about progesterone on the other hand is responsible for the brain's neuroplasticity. It's important for cognitive function, it's important for learning, it's important for memory. Progesterone also helps us modulate stress, it helps us improve sleep, it helps us with mood regulation, and you're going to understand why this is super important momentarily. Progesterone also plays a very key role in body basal temperature maintenance and supports brain health. And at the bottom, but not last definitely, it also improves cholesterol clearance in the body. So, right, just to sort of give everyone an understanding of what exactly is going on a deeper level in your menstrual cycle, we're going to just talk about these 4 phases very briefly. So if you have a cycle, if you are a woman who still is in her reproductive age, this is important for you as well. For men listening, for everyone listening, whoever has a sister, a partner, a colleague, a friend, this is very important information, because for the longest times, women have always been sought out to be little men, okay? The amount of research that's taken to talk about women's health is always on a limited side, and it's only till recently that women are being included in studies, in health studies that really dial into what's going on hormonal levels, all right? So if we direct our attention to the screen, we'll see that the 4 phases that I mentioned come in 4 different times of the month. So phase 1, phase 2, phase 3, and phase 4, okay? Hormonally speaking, in your menstrual phase, all your hormones are super low. You know, they are grounded. This is why you feel that need to this is why you feel that need to turn inward. This is why you feel groggy. This is why you feel like you don't have enough energy at the time, okay? In your follicular phase, like I said, your estrogen levels are rising. In your ovulatory phase, you'll see a combination of estrogen and testosterone coming to take their turn, right? And finally, in your luteal phase, you see progesterone coming in to also dominate and do what she needs to do, which is essentially maintain the thickened uterine walls. In terms of duration, you're looking at your menstrual phase lasting anywhere between 3 to 6 days. You're looking at your follicular phase lasting anywhere between 9 days. Your ovulatory phase is 5 days, and finally your luteal phase is about 14 days. So, next. Now, biologically speaking, your body actively knows you're not pregnant during your menstrual phase, which sort of is very supplementary to your bleed, okay? In your follicular phase, your body is preparing for pregnancy, and in your ovulatory phase, your body is ready for pregnancy. During your luteal phase, you're potentially pregnant, so your body is still in that balance of, hey, there's a possibility we might be pregnant, there's a possibility we might not be pregnant. So what does that mean in terms of immunity? For any reason, if you have a fetus growing inside you, your immunity is going to drop, because in the off chance or in the right chance that you actually have a fetus growing in, your body is trying not to attack this fetus. So your immunity naturally drops in your luteal phase. This is why you see us more prone to disease, more prone to catching a cold during this particular phase, okay? Now, neurologically speaking, you have a very heightened intuition during your menstrual phase. This is a time where it's important to reflect, it's important to look inwards, it's important to focus on restoration, all right? In your follicular phase, you're more tuned, neurologically speaking, to strategic action, and we can see a lot of hyperactivity with your EQ. Your EQ is in a heightened space. This is a good time to look into exploration, research, getting into subject matter that really pulls a nerve, all right? Your brain, your body, your hormones will support you through this. And then when we look at the ovulatory phase, neurologically speaking, you're very magnetic in this phase. If we're to look at it in a wholesome perspective, what's happening is, from an evolutionary standpoint, your body is ready to take on a mate, okay, and continue evolution. But if we look at it in a more biohacking manner, we see that you're more magnetic in this phase, your confidence is off the roof. This is a time to have tough conversations. This is a time to give speeches. This is a time to walk up to your boss and ask for a raise. This is a time to dial into difficult conversations because your hormones will support you, all right? Mm-hmm. And then finally, in your luteal phase, this is where you have hyperfocus. Now, the interesting part about your luteal phase is that progesterone, which is a very neurocentric hormone, is coming in to increase your neuroplasticity. This is where we see synaptic action happening at very increased rates. You'll find that in your luteal phase, your focus is extremely high, your task completion oriented, you're paying attention to detail. And what does that mean for us as people in working spaces? When you're tuning into this kind of what I call superpowers in your luteal phase, you're able to get tasks going quicker, you're able to understand what your body is able to give to you in this particular phase, you know. Now, just a little, from my own experience at least, and I don't know if women on the call can relate to this, during my luteal phase, I feel very, very turned inward. This is a time when I'm getting tasks done. For some reason, I don't want anyone to come and speak to me. I want to focus on my work and just get everything done, okay? Now, I want to point out that this doesn't mean that you should put every other thing on hold. That's not what I'm trying to say here. The message I'm trying to communicate is you are cyclical beings. There's hormones doing multiple things at different points of the month. When you lean into these kinds of superpowers, when you lean into this kind of focus that comes with being a woman, it helps you tremendously, all right? And moving forward, like I said, in terms of focus, during your menstrual phase, lean into rest. It's very important, ladies, to rest, okay? We'll get into why I'm emphasizing rest when we really hit the conversation on perimenopause. When we look at your follicular phase, lean into creativity, lean into planning, all right? In your ovulatory phase, get in touch with collaboration. Your sharpness is heightened. Use it, embrace it, all right? In your luteal phase, work. Get organized, get activities done, right? When it comes to nutrition, nutrition plays a very key role here because when different hormones are going on in your system, there's different mineral demands and different energy demands, all right? In the first 2 phases of your cycle, which is essentially your menstrual phase, your hormones are low. Your body is going to demand an intake of food. You're literally bleeding. You need the mineral support. You need the food. Same conversation goes into your luteal phase. You'll notice that this is the time right before your period where you feel like you want to eat so much. Please don't criticize yourself. Don't invalidate your feelings. Your body is begging you for the extra energy because it needs it, okay? Now, this is very different from your follicular and ovulatory phase. In these 2 phases, we see a very heightened metabolism, all right? So you're burning food even faster. You find yourself being able to go 18 hours without eating. You find yourself leaning into intermittent fasting, which is amazing. This helps your body. This is the right time to dial into that kind of nutrition, all right? In terms of movement is extremely critical. We spend a lot of time behind screens. We spend a lot of time sitting in front of TVs. It's important to be able to get up and get physical in whichever way that presents itself. The beauty is we don't have to struggle with fitness so much because our menstrual phases are here to guide us, okay? In your menstrual phase, slow down, take gentle walks, do the yoga, and just sort of lean into rest, all right? During your follicular phase, this is when you have heightened metabolism. Do the running, do the spinning, go to the dance class you've been trying to go to for the last 1 month, all right? And finally, in your luteal phase, this is where you lean into more weighted activity, because ladies, it's very important to be able to do these activities while you can at the moment. Your hormones will be extremely grateful, you'll feel rejuvenized, you'll feel everything working out, and you'll be thriving. And then finally, in terms of energy, during your menstrual phase, you're looking at least 1%, okay? If you have to scale it, your energy is quite low. So what does this mean for you? If you're a working professional and you understand that next week is extremely demanding, but I'm going to be in my menstrual phase, this is the part where planning ahead comes into play, asking for help, understanding each other, being able to speak to your manager and your colleagues to step in and help out where you feel like you're not meeting particular goals. Do not be ashamed to ask for help. Do not be ashamed to be able to be seen in such spaces. When we talk about our menstrual cycles in a way that helps everyone around us, it really sets the precedent for understanding our bodies even more, which is something that we need to embrace a lot lately, okay? And then when you look at your follicular phase, your energy is growing. You're easily at least at 75%. You have the momentum, you have the zeal to keep going, okay? In your ovulatory phase, your energy is peak. Execute, enjoy being a woman, enjoy thriving, all right? And finally, in your luteal phase, your energy is beginning to decline. Your period is around the corner, you're allowed to slow down, but also this is a time when you're allowed to pay extra attention to a lot of detail, all right? And then, next slide, please. Why did I take us on a tangent on explaining the menstrual cycle before getting into menopause? This is mostly because we need to understand what's going on at every phase of a woman's life, all right? So we begin with prenarche, which is essentially 0 to about 12 years old. Then we get into menarche, right? This is the stage right before you begin your menstrual period as a young woman or young girl. Then finally, we have prime fertility. This is any age between about 18 to about 40 years old, all right? Then finally, perimenopause, which is something that we don't talk about enough, but ideally perimenopause is at least 5 to 10 years before menopause actually sets in, okay? Then finally, menopause. The ages shown at the bottom are just average ages. Do not be too intimidated. These ages vary depending on people's different bio-individualities. So, yeah, thanks. Now, let's talk about perimenopause, okay? Like I said earlier, perimenopause is 5 to 10 years before your final period. Essentially, what's happening during your perimenopause years is ovulation is slowing down, all right? When ovulation is slowing down, that essentially means the count of eggs that you have in your ovaries that can develop or mature is also going down. Now, one thing I want us to understand from this call is for ovulation to occur, estrogen has to be in play. And for progesterone to come into play, ovulation has to occur. So it's a very beautiful dance going on in your reproductive system, okay? Now, perimenopause can be very asymptomatic or it can be very seamless. This is completely dependent on so many things, from genetic predisposition to the kind of environment you're in, to the kind of manner or the kind of steps you took to take care of yourself in your reproductive years, right? Perimenopause is a very progressive stage of womanhood. It is something to be embraced. It is not something to fight. From my interactions with different women, there's always conversations about how do I stop it. No, we don't stop perimenopause. We embrace it. We understand that the symptoms that you're facing are not a bad report card. They are not a prison sentence. They're simply your body telling you, hey, something is off and we need to pay attention. If anything, we should be grateful to see these symptoms coming out, because for the longest time, your body has been struggling and now it's telling you, hey, it's time up, I'm done. Let's dial down, let's dial into fitness, let's dial into nutrition, and let's get to our optimal health. This is why many women and many people struggle when they get into their perimenopausal years, okay? So, in terms of hormonal shifts, the first thing I'd like to talk about is what's going on is you have progesterone getting lost, okay? You have infrequent ovulation happening, and this sort of ramps up things like your stress resiliency. This accumulates into symptoms of depression, anxiety, sleep issues, because if you remember the slide that we talked about earlier, progesterone is the hormone that's responsible for that. So naturally, when your progesterone is being depleted, you're going to expect an opposite effect, all right? When it comes to estrogen, this is a bit of a two-ended conversation, because at the start, you're going to see lowered estrogen levels. When your estrogen is going down, you're going to struggle with hot flashes, you're going to see things like vaginal dryness coming in, low libido, and all this is because of your estrogen levels declining. But later, again, through your perimenopause, you're going to see situations whereby you have heavier periods, more painful periods. You're struggling with breast tenderness, weight gain issues, okay? I would like to point out that at this time in your cycle, your days can last anywhere between 28 to 60 days, all right? You can go up to 60 days without seeing a period. You can go up to 14 days, 15 days. It's just a very erratic time, all right? And then the last hormonal shift that I'd like to point out is testosterone. When you're going through your perimenopause, we have excess testosterone going through your system. Testosterone happens to be in excess because when your estrogen levels are going down, what we call the sex-binding globulin hormone, which essentially transports hormones all over your body, is going down as well. So you see heightened levels of testosterone in your system, which explains a lot of insulin resistance, which explains a lot of weight gain that you see women around perimenopausal years struggling with, okay? So next slide, please. Now, that's what perimenopause is, all right? Perimenopause, like I said, 5 to 10 years, anywhere between there before your last period. So women are officially said to be perimenopausal when a year has gone by and they haven't had a period. So 12 months later, if you haven't had a period, you've officially reached menopause, okay? Menopause is a naturally low estrogen state, right? It's a time to look inward. It's a time to be celebrated. It's a time to choose yourself, because what's nature telling us, if you really think about this? You've been of reproductive age for the last 40 years and now you've stopped. Your body's telling you, hey, you've given to the world for the last 40 years. It's time to look back inside. Let's actually look into what we want for ourselves. You might be in a very high place in your career. You might be in a place where so many life changes are going on, and it's very important to understand that menopause is not a problem. We need to change our addiction around menopause. We need to change the way we approach this conversation, because the way we approach this conversation really changes perspectives, okay? We need to embrace menopause. We need to stop thinking about it as this problem, as this issue. It's your time it's your time to shine, it's your time to thrive, okay? So, another thing to mention about menopause is it can be symptomatic as well. We look at issues like weight gain, we look at issues like loss of mineral bone density, we look at cardiovascular diseases coming in, as well as autoimmune diseases, and in extreme cases, even dementia, okay? Now, for the next slide, we're going to talk about how to manage the symptoms, we're going to talk about why they occur, and we are going to look at ways to actually thrive through this, okay? Some of the symptoms that I want to highlight are hot flashes. We struggle with things like migraines, mood, sleep issues, anxiety, depression, memory loss, brain fog, and also osteoporosis. Now, when it comes to management, I know this is going to make a lot of people uncomfortable, but alcohol consumption and toxins load in your body is exacerbating your symptoms, okay? Think about it this way. The liver is a primary organ in the body that's meant to detoxify, all right? So if you have alcohol coming into your system in a constant rate, when I say constant, I'm saying every weekend you're getting a beer, you're doing wine, okay? And your liver is sensing these toxins coming in. Remember, the liver is also responsible for detoxifying hormones. Your hormones are already all over the place. Hormones, another thing to point out about them is they're supposed to be used and lost, okay? They're in the body, they function as use and lose, right? So your hormones are running to your liver to be detoxified. The alcohol, the toxins, anything like drugs is running to your liver to be detoxified. Naturally, as a liver, you're going to decide to get rid of the person you don't know, which is alcohol and the drugs and the toxins. You're going to put everything hormone-related on pause. So as soon as your liver puts your hormones on pause, they're going to be reabsorbed into your system, causing problems like excess estrogen, which is where we see things like heavy periods, things like painful periods. This is where we have symptoms like hot flashes coming in, because your body doesn't know what to do with the excess estrogen. Remember, you're already struggling with uneven levels, and now they've been reabsorbed back into your system. Talk about a double hit to your symptoms, okay? So one of the things that I recommend is trying to dial down on your alcohol consumption. when I talk about toxins, it could be anything from the environment to the body and facial products you're using, okay? When we go to supermarkets, it's been extremely normalized to pick up anything, look at the back, not understand half of the ingredients inside, and you're like, you know what, it's okay, it smells nice, I'll take it. That's not okay, women, ladies, gentlemen, all right? You need to be able to be intentional and understand what kind of products you're using on your body. Why am I emphasizing this? You're at a point in your life whereby your body is very reactive to a lot of compounds that it interacts with, all right? You're literally struggling to get by because your hormones are trying to balance itself. So when you're bringing in bodily products, facial care products, the kind of hair you put on your body, and your body doesn't recognize them, it's going to go through the same process again. It's not going to get detoxified, it's going to go back into your system and continue causing havoc, all right? There's a lot of amazing Uganda brands that I know of right now that are on market that are actually natural, very friendly, very organic products that I encourage people to use. Lean into buying Uganda and building Uganda. It helps you, it helps the economy, it helps all of us, all right? And then number 3, I'd like to point out household cleaning products. We live in a time where there's a lot of toxins around us. Everywhere you look, you can point to something that's not good for our health. We call them endocrine disruptors, all right? These are the kind of compounds that come into our system and mimic hormones. They attach to areas of our organs that hormones should be attaching to, but because they have a very similar molecular structure, the body perceives them to be hormones until later when the body's like, wait, that's not exactly progesterone, what's going on? Let's try to get rid of it. And in that process of trying to get rid of it, you are creating inflammation, you're creating stress on your body, which is again going to come back in line to affect you, all right? I know it's not very simple to go home and throw out all these terrible cleaning products with chemicals that we can't even pronounce, but it does go a long way to wear masks, okay? Wear gloves, try to protect yourself, try to limit exposure to toxins, because toxins are really exasperating symptoms, okay? And then we can also look at processed foods and supplementation. Now, when we talk about processed foods, it's very important to highlight that it is, as at the stage we are right now, processed oil is killing us, okay? Processed oil, the problem with processed oil is that it has what we call free radicals, okay? When you look at the way these oils are produced, that's where the problem starts, okay? I'm going to just name a few things like sunseed oil, canola oil. These are processed in factories that have high heat expectations to these oils, okay? So when you expose this kind of oils to heat, they become free radicals. Now, free radicals are just a fancy way to say mad dogs, okay? So imagine a mad dog just running around trying to bite or grab onto anything and everything it can see, okay? So when you have this oil brought onto your table, it's already going through a lot of heating, it has free radicals. Now you're also going to go ahead and fry some chicken, you're going to go ahead and cook that mandazi, you're going to go ahead and fry that chapati with that already toxin-filled oil, okay? By the time it gets into your system, it's lost all its nutritional value. Ideally, what we're trying to get from this kind of oil is omega-3. Omega-3 is important for cell health, all right? So now here your cells are waiting for the omega-3s. The kind of oil you're putting into your system has already been depleted with all the nutrients. So it's almost like doing no work, right? Again, I understand that it's a lot to ask for you to just go home and remove these oils out of your life. That's not possible, but you can start gradually. You can start by changing your oil. Look into options like ghee, coconut oil, olive oil. All these create a difference, okay? And still on processed foods, another part of processed foods that I would like to highlight in terms of nutrition is breakfast. Ladies, I know we get so busy, we get so occupied, we get so distracted with work, but when you're in your perimenopause to your menopausal years, protein-rich filled breakfast is important. Remember, your stress levels are not as optimum as they were before. Your stress management is going down. You don't need to keep stressing your body when it comes to giving it the right nutrients. Always make sure to have a protein-rich, protein-filled meal at the start of the day, okay? Ideally, within 2 hours of starting your day would go a very long way, all right? And then next, I would like to also point out supplementation. Now, supplementation, there's a lot of conversation about supplementation, about what do I eat, where do I go, what's right and what's wrong. When it comes to supplementation, it's important to dial into your nutrition chart, all right? Your nutrition chart, specifically your mineral list. Now, I know this is very different for everyone because we all have different bio-individualities, we all have different health histories. So when you're getting into supplementation, it's extremely important to consult with a specialist, to consult with a doctor, to understand what does what exactly and for what point. Because I've seen situations where people are diabetic and they're supplementing on different things that they saw online, and it's just causing cascades in their bodies, which isn't okay. You're basically working backwards instead of working forward. Now, I also want to point out that the quality of food that you're eating is extremely important as well. You know, KFC, buying that chapati in the morning is really not going to help you when you're struggling with these symptoms. Help your body help itself to get back to its healthy levels, okay? And then we can also look into effective stress management, right? At this point, remember, we've all agreed that your hormones are low, and as we spoke about earlier, hormones contribute to a lot of bodily functions, okay? So you need to dial into healthier stress management options. Do you have communities? Do you have circles? What does your stress look like? How much stress can you take on? Are you working out? Are you moving? Are you eating right? All this is going to affect the way you deal with your stress, okay? How much workload are you taking on? How much social stress are you taking on? How much family stress are you taking on? You know, are you seeing a therapist when it gets out of hand? All these are factors to look into that are going to balance out your experience in your menopause, okay? And then finally, movement. Now, movement is a little bit of a touchy subject because when it comes to movement, people really do not know what to do in terms of exercise. Now, ideally, when you're in a naturally low estrogen state, it's important to get back your strength, all right? This is where you need to focus on weightlifting, you need to focus on yoga, you need to focus on intense cardiovascular activity, which is just short micro minutes of maybe taking a run and then stopping, catching your breath. Short runs, catch your breath, all right? But again, I'd like to point out that this is different for so many people because if you have any underlying conditions, this changes. You know, this can't be generic information. You need to be able to pay attention to what your body has been able to deal with the last couple of years before you go to your menopause, okay? And then finally, HRT. HRT is hormone replacement therapy. And hormone replacement therapy is not always the #1 solution. It's always something that's discussed when you've tried balancing out every arena of your life and it still just doesn't make sense. Now, hormone replacement therapy is usually advised for women who have catastrophically low estrogen levels for whatsoever reason, which is normally genetic, okay? You see them struggling with things like osteoporosis, and this is where hormone replacement therapy can come into the conversation. Again, I'd like to emphasize after trying to correct every other arena, and that is extremely important. So yeah, just to wrap that up, I think it's really important to never stop learning. We live in a time whereby women's health is being talked about more, which is something I'm extremely excited about. Never stop learning, never stop being intentional, never stop asking questions about your health, all right? Embrace your clinical nature. We go through 4 different phases or lifetimes as a woman, okay? When you reach your perimenopause and you reach your menopause, it's not a life sentence. It's a different phase to embrace, enjoy, and you know, see what comes along with it. You'd be surprised how much you enjoy it. I would also like to emphasize that we need to learn to track our cycles, women. You cannot step into a doctor's office and they're asking you what phase or what cycle day you're in, and you're like, I don't know, maybe my period was 10 days ago. It doesn't make sense because for reasons we've talked about, your hormones play extremely crucial roles through the month. So if you're able to deduce what stage you're in, you're able to inform a lot of your decisions, all right? Track your cycles, get very intentional about doing this, understand when your symptoms come in, because when you know at a specific point, my symptoms are erratic, you're able to tell, okay, maybe it's a food I ate, maybe it's the fact that I didn't get enough rest earlier, and you're able to really just do the intentional work of taking care of yourself fast, all right? And then last but not least, enjoy your feminine experience. We are gifted to be women. We're a source of energy. We're a source of power, okay? When you enjoy your feminine experience, you enjoy being a woman, you need to dial into community, help each other, support each other, love each other in whichever way that presents itself, all right? I also like to talk about very slightly internalized misogyny. It's always something that I highlight. Women have this internalized misogyny that goes on between them, which is essentially hate and hate for women. It's not healthy, it's not admirable, it's not okay. When you have healthy support systems, when you have healthy friendships, you're able to thrive as a woman, thrive in your workplace, thrive in your personal space, and just enjoy your experience. Yeah. And last but not least, this is just a gentle reminder. This information can be very overwhelming, but it can also be exciting. Please take your time to indulge in sizable pieces. It gets easier the more you understand and track your cycles. And luckily for everyone on the call today, we'll be able to send you what we call free cycle guides. These are just tailored guides with all the information that you've interacted with today to give you more insight on how to understand your cycles, how to understand what it is to thrive as a woman. And finally, I want to just talk about the Sunlight Project very, very briefly, which is Suki Wellness's effort to end period poverty. So whichever way you contribute, just by being in this conversation today, you've contributed. Whatever penny or is spent in terms of products or services always goes to our effort to ending period poverty by getting to communities and helping women and girls. So thank you everyone on the call today for participating in our effort to end period poverty. And last but not least, we have a QR code on the screen. You can scan this at leisure. This is basically just links to our media pages, to our direct contact. Please drop a message, drop a text. We're always open to speak to anyone and everyone about hormones, about growth, about womanhood, about change. And we're always willing to listen. Thank you very much for listening. Thank you so much, Minet, one more time for taking the time to have Suki Wellness here. And I'll just hand over to Helen now.
Thank you. Thank you. I cannot thank you enough. Wow, 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 wow. A lot of information. Of course, like I said, you can indulge little by little.
Yes.
Very useful information for every woman out there who has been struggling. Like we said in the beginning, help is here. Angela is a director and founder of Suki Wellness, in which she plays a very big role in creating awareness, but also she can be consulted on the issues that she's spoken about here to support you as an individual. Like we said, menopause is very unique to every individual, even as life sets in. But she will get into your personal space, help you understand how to cope with this. Thank you very much this morning. I know that our time is well spent. We still have just a couple of minutes probably to wind this up. But just before we go off, I know that you've been in this for quite a very long time. You yourself have a personal experience because you struggled even to go and learn, go to do a special course in hormonal expertise, okay? And that took you to learn and come back and say, let me come back for my fellow women such that they can improve their life, they can live well, they can still remain vibrant regardless what phase in life they are in. And so that's what brings this expertise here. I mentioned in the beginning, why do we talk about menopause? Is it about wellness? Yes, it's about your wellness. We want every woman vibrant. Like you said, a woman is a fiber of community. She's the joy of every world. She's a nurturer. She's everything. The moment she goes down, society loses a little bit. And also, this is a Women's Month. Thank you for coming in. That's why we come in. And very importantly, we are talking to those women who feel like, I've given all I can to life and I think I have no more to give. No, you are just beginning. You're just beginning to give. And what is important is that now you're leaving a legacy of everything that has been inside of you. It's not the time you should chill. It's not the time you should go down your life. It's the time to be able to leave a legacy, leave whatever is inside on you with somebody, support society to grow, nurture it in the best way possible. I know that we could have a bit of questions here, but even as I delve into the individual questions that you've been asking, does menopause affect men? Does it affect young girls? How does it affect them? How do you help them?
First of all, does menopause affect men? The answer is yes, because naturally speaking, when you are going through these different phases of your life, you get to a point whereby your testosterone ceases to come at the same levels, okay? But with men, we see it differently because it's more direct surprisingly. The only time when menopause in men becomes a problem is when you are not, again, taking care of yourself. You know, you're getting exposed to these toxins, to heightened levels of alcohol. This is where you see there's a very beautiful dance between estrogen and testosterone in men, by the way. Men also have estrogen in their systems, which is not something that's talked about a lot. But in situations whereby a man is exposing himself to the same cofactors that are going to lead to imbalances, you're going to see situations whereby, and I know this is going to shake a lot of tables, big pot bellies, okay, breasts developing. These are not healthy signs. These are not healthy symptoms in men, okay? These are signs that you need to dial down in your toxin load. This is signs you need to dial down on what you're consuming. You need to look into your nutrition. You need to look into your movement. You need to look into your exercise, because your body will always give you signs. Now, when you talk about menopause in terms of the male side, your testosterone levels will eventually go down, but at a later point in life. We only see it not being as drastic as women because you have one primary sex hormone to deal with. Women are dealing with 3 different hormones. That's why there's always a cascade of different things going on. Do young women get menopause? The answer is yes. It's called primordial menopause. Essentially, it comes because your ovaries are failing at an earlier age, all right? It's normally related to disease, and also one of the many reasons why we look at situations where hysterectomies are had, okay? Having menopause at an early age can be scary, that's a fact, because in hindsight, you're about 30 years old and you're getting your menopause. But I want to also talk about the fact that menopausal symptoms can be very easily misunderstood with situations like estrogen excess, all right? Because when you look at the symptoms that we've talked about today, they're also very, very synonymous with PMS, all right? So there are situations whereby you would assume you're going through perimenopause or menopause as a young person, but what's going on is you're dealing with excess estrogen, you're dealing with low progesterone, you're dealing with estrogen deficiency. And like I said, to confirm that you're going through menopause, we do what we call an FSH test. An FSH test is basically an indication that your hormonal levels are below the optimal level, and that's what confirms menopause. Until you do this test, until you get to that point, you cannot say you're in menopause until you have an affirmative confirmation. These symptoms are very closely related. They're very easy to get mistaken for each other, but that's why it's important to have these conversations, to become aware that these are imbalances at the root of things that can be corrected. Do not feel caged, do not feel like this is the end of the world. This can be resolved. It's always solutions. And the best part is you don't have to dial into chronic medical healthcare. You just have to change your lifestyle, change the products you're using, change the food you're eating, change the people you surround yourself with, because this is as much mental as it is physical, as it is biological, all right? It's a wholesome solution to this beautiful mix of wellness, okay?
Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you. And even as we wind up, you've talked about the potty bellies, and I had an article in the newspapers where public servants have been asked to do exercises. I believe this could be a very good compliment on how to go down on the potty belly. Thank you very much. Hormonal balance is what we are dealing with. And as you see, some of you have been put on drugs for this, but there are effective ways within your reach that Angela is speaking to us about. And the reason why we talk about this is how it affects you and the environment you're in terms of your moods, your response, your energy levels, which is very, very important for you in a day and in a stressful world that we're living in as today. Now, as we wind up, just to let you know that Angela is with us. He's on the program for EAP. He's part of the people we work with. To support our people, anything that would help you be well is our world, is our expertise. And so even as we go off the call, you can dial in or send an email to hope@minet.co.ug just to reach out to Minet for more information about her and how you can access her. Angela, I would like to thank you very much. Would like to appreciate all the people who have been on this call. We don't take your time for granted. We believe this is something you can share. We will go ahead and proceed to share a lot of these nuggets that we have received today, a lot of these tips that we have received today, but also the presentation for you to go in, as well as the contact for Angela for you to dial in and reach out to her. Very busy person with this kind of work, but very passionate about women. And she talked about the charity project, which is very, very important, ending the poverty. The period poverty,
yes.
yes, which is a crisis in every woman. Would like to appreciate every woman on this call, but most importantly, I've seen men on this call. Would like to thank you so much for not stopping to learn. I believe you're there because you're learning for either a woman or your boss who is running with many women, and you just want to understand how to support them. Would like to thank you so much. I'd like to say Happy Women's Month from Minet, from our CEO, Mr. Edward Nambafu, who has fully sponsored this program to be available for everybody, for the public to hear on topical issues that affect your wellness. Would like to appreciate them, Mr. Nambafu Edward, our COO, Chief Executive Officer, Ms. Winnie Chiwuwa, for all this that is happening with Minet, our human resource, our IT people at the back of this, and Price Media, who has enabled this program to take off very successfully. A wonderful team with us here. Thank you so very much. We love you, and we look forward to our next webinar next month. Look out for Minet webinar programs. Thank you very much. I would like to close this program by saying thanks to all of you. Parting shots.
Yeah. Okay, so first of all, just want to extend my gratitude to everyone on the call. Thank you for sticking with us. Thank you for sticking through with us. And to Minet in general, very excited to be on board, very excited to extend our services to you and to your clients. Thank you very much for embracing what hormonal health means to everyone, be it personal, be it work, and whichever space that extends. I'm very excited to be here. I am very reachable. We are very present. We are spearheading this space. We're pioneering the health industry in Uganda. And yeah, super excited to work with everyone today.
Okay, thank you very much. As we part today, I would like to once again thank you so much for being on the call. I would like to say that wellness is no longer a luxury, but a need for everybody, wherever you sit. As you know, there's a lot of stressors in the world. There's a lot going on in the world. We see many people failing at the most optimal time they are needed because they have not managed their stress. And so as Minet, as a company, we are here to provide a wellness solution for your organization and dependents as a whole. This provides assessments like Angela has talked about, every form of assessment, a psychometric assessment, the HFS that she's talked about, the wellness exercises, the wellness programs, that talks like this one are provided for you in your workspace. But also, most importantly, we do what we call counseling services for every issue, for every problem, for every challenge that you face. Minet is available to provide all this. Please reach out to us on Hope at Minet to have these discussions back end, and we see how we can customize a program for you. Without wasting time, thank you so much for being on the call. I wish you a lovely end of the month and happy Easter. Enjoy the festive season. Thank you. Bye.
Bye.